Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. I'm very happy to see you, and I'm very excited to talk about some of the latest features we have for publishing research materials on the web with Curvenote. So I've got both a few slides here today, and then basically a walkthrough of getting some scientific writing, a preprint project that I've been developing over the last few months. We're going to actually go ahead and publish that on the web, and I'm going to show you how easy that is now from the Curvenote interface, and how it joins up with some of the other capabilities that we've got in the writing platform. So feel free to drop messages or questions into the chat as we go, and I'll happily answer those. Also, this is also being recorded, and it will be sort of made available on our YouTube channel later. So you might want to keep your video off and stay muted unless you want to ask a question. Feel free to put your hand up as well if you'd like to ask a question, or drop it in the chat. Great. So I'll get started, and I'll start off by talking a little bit about just a little bit of background on Curvenote. When we started Curvenote, we set out to address a problem, which is that often in modern science and data science, the results and visualizations and data tables that we produce can often be disconnected from the manuscripts, documents, and presentations that they end up being built into and communicated via. And this is a typical situation, the way you might have some software or notebooks which allow us to produce results or visualizations or figures that we use in a manuscript, and we're often faced with just taking a screenshot of that and using that directly in a Word document, for example. And this breaks the continuity, so there's no auditability. It's hard to track which screenshot was used from which version of data and code. There's no way to update that easily or in real time. There's no version control. And these things are static, so there's no way for these to be interactive either. All of which sort of detract a lot of times from the work we're able to do in platforms like Jupyter. So what we have done by building Curvenote is we built a platform to allow scientific communication to happen in a much richer way. The idea is you can focus on your research work, your content in the form of documents and Jupyter notebooks, and have that at the center of your research process, and then be able to easily publish that content out in various different forms. PDFs for when you need to get that out to a journal or a conference, but equally interactive websites, out to LaTeX, out to Word, and out to Markdown as well. Curvenote itself gives a bunch of capabilities. It gives you a sort of visual online editor with Jupyter integration. It gives you all those export and publishing routes, but it also goes further and supports interactive visualizations. And we're working on keeping more and more of the interactive visualizations you can create in Jupyter alive throughout the writing process and through to publication on the web. And also because we've got version control in the middle, the documents and your notebooks stay linked. So that makes them easy to update and maintain and reuse in different documents. So our goal overall really is to get science out of PDFs and move science to modern, richer formats where they can be more interactive and linked to the data and the code that was used to produce these results. To let people, researchers, share science more quickly and in a reproducible way, and make it more easy to collaborate, and help you communicate your work beautifully with beautiful visualizations and websites. So today's webinar builds a bit on two of our previous webinars, which one focused on the actual writing and editing experience in Curvenote, and the second one really focused on our CLI tools for people who want to work in Markdown and want to work, for example, in a raw text editor with notebooks and files on their local computer. And today's webinar really focuses on publishing directly from the Curvenote user interface. And what that means is you don't have to deal with any code, you don't have to deal with installations on your local machine. And for people who just want to be able to write in one place, bring in notebooks and combine them into that writing work, this enables you to easily publish websites in a number of different ways, just from a single click of a button. So that's what we're going to cover specifically today. Already, since we introduced this website publishing route for in Curvenote, we've had a whole bunch of different scientific material published, including blogs, tutorials, conference websites, reports, and books. It's also a very good way to sort of do things like share notebooks, share materials around seminar series. You can embed videos and rich media, as well as computational outputs. So what do you have in mind? If you have any ideas of how you would like to use this type of system, please let us know in the Zoom chat and raise any questions that might be specific to your use case. And great. So today's webinar, what I'm going to go through as quickly as this. We're going to have a quick look, go into the Curvenote visual editor and just very quickly look at some of the features there. And we're going to go ahead and publish the first website and see how easily and quickly that can happen. Then we're actually going to look at how do we get that website to be in the best state. How do I add licensing information? How do I update my author information? And how do I make that website as good as it can be for sort of SEO purposes, so search engines can find my work? We'll go through and use options in Curvenote to set that up, and continue and publish some updates to the website as we go. And then we'll also look at how to collaborate and reuse some of that content for different purposes in Curvenote. I'll also touch on publishing for teams as well, because this is equally these features are equally available for a group of people under a sort of the name of a team, rather than somebody's individual account as well. And hopefully there's plenty of time for Q&A at the end. Great. So let me jump out of the presentation and come over to Kernel. So for anybody who doesn't know, or hasn't seen Curvenote yet, when you sign up for a Curvenote account, you sort of arrive at a profile like this. My profile's here. I've got lots of different projects that I've created. Projects are a way to group and organize work within Curvenote. And for the webinar, I'm going to go into my La Palma project here, which I've used sort of in the previous webinar. And this is a project that I've built up over the last few months, since well, actually since this time last year, when the La Palma volcano was erupting. And it's comprised of a brief preprint, some additional documents, which we call sort of articles in Curvenote, as well as a number of Jupyter notebooks, which are directly available in the Curvenote project as well. And if I just go back to this article here, this currently I'm sort of viewing this article, but if I just press edit here, this opens up the sort of editing experience. And then Curvenote is built to be a sort of first-class scientific visual editor. So that means you can come in and you can just begin writing. Oh, or shouting in small caps even. And it also provides a lot of things you would expect from a scientific editor. So you can come in and you can create inline maths quite easily just by adding LaTeX. Also things like block maths. Oops, sorry. Again, just by typing LaTeX. So it's possible to come in and actually build up rich equations quite easily. There are equation numbering available, as well as sort of rich cross-referencing. So I can come in and cross-reference any of the equations, tables, and figures that I've added into my document. Table. Here's that there. And just all the features that you sort of expect to have in LaTeX, you can do here in the WYSIWYG editor. You can also add citations. If I just type cite like this, this will list the 2 citations I have at the moment in my article. So we have this sort of baked-in citation control. We can also change the citation style, drag and drop these around, group them, etc., appropriate for where we're putting them in the text. And we have, Curvenote also has some good reference management that allow you to bring in a whole set of references via BibTeX, or you can actually add directly from DOI. For example, there is a recent paper that I want to cite that was published. I can just grab its DOI, add it here, and then we have now that reference in our library, and I've just inserted a copy of it here. And that comes through with all the sort of JATS information inline in the article. So Curvenote's really set up to try and make that writing experience as easy as possible. It's also organized in terms of blocks. So you can see here I'm writing in different blocks, and that allows us to move content around, so on and so forth. And it will also allow us to bring in specific elements from different locations. For example, this figure here is actually a figure that started out its life in a Jupyter notebook. And I can actually go to one of our Jupyter notebooks here. Just wait for it to load, and I can grab any sort of code block or figure there, just do Control-C, come back to my article, well, just Control-V, and then I've added in not a screenshot of that work, but a linked version control version of that exact plot that can be taken back through to my notebook. And should I go and then update my notebook, it's easy to come through and, for example, use the latest version of that plot, in this case, which brought in lots of historical data. So that is a quick overview of some of the features of the Curvenote editor. Like I say, our previous webinar goes in and builds this article from the ground up, should you want to see that. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish this as a website. So if I come up here to publish, you can see I've got no, I have published this before in the past, but I've got no current domains configured in my config for my project. So if I just go in here, we go into the project settings, and I'm presented with a screen where I'm able to set a domain. So if I just say add domain, then this Curvenote's going to guess at what domain I would like. And I can publish this website to any domain, including my username, or include my username with a hyphen and then something after it. So I can publish this to Steve J. Purvis, -La Palma at curve.space. I set this like so, and then I just hit publish domains, and that will go, and that will actually grab all of the content from my project and build a website using that, which is then public and available on the web. This can take less than 60 seconds, I think. This is a project with quite a few large notebooks in, so let's see how quick that is. But the idea here is as well is that you can, in Curvenote, you can basically, we have the sort of curve space domain, which is a free hosting and a free sort of domain service. So you can host websites under there using your username, and you can host as many as you like. It's unlimited essentially using this this extension method. So if I just go now up here, and there's my website live on the internet, and this is a permanent link that could be shared or published, etc. All of the features that we saw should still be in place. So the equation references, the references to figures, etc. And here, interactive timelines. If I go, my notebooks are here. We can see the Jupyter symbol. And all those interactive plots are still available and in place. Great. So that's it. I mean, once you've got a piece of writing or a collection of notebooks, it is that sort of fast and easy to get a website up on the internet. So great. We can see there's some information, all of our contents there, but really I want to add a lot more information to here. We've got an icon here telling us about licensing, which we don't have a license defined at the moment. And I don't have any of my information on here. So I'm going to go back now and add some of that and then quickly update our website. So let's go back. I think, Alan, you just add a question. Can you bring in references from EndNote? If you can export to a BibTeX file or a .bib file, then those will come straight in. I'm not familiar if EndNote has that export route. Also, if you export a bib file multiple times, you can bring those back in and the references will be deduplicated. So you can update content in your reference manager, export again and bring that back in, and you won't get duplicate references, but you can fix different things in the references themselves or add new ones. Okay, I'm just going to go back in. And actually, while I'm doing the next bit, I've decided I don't want to have this on the La Palma subdomain. What I'm going to do is I'm just actually going to delete that. And that's removed that. So I think now if I refresh this page, that content's gone. So I've actually just pulled my website off of the internet as well. So you've got complete control over your content. I'm actually going to put this in as my main root domain using my username there, and we're going to publish to that. So what I'm going to also do is I'm going to first update my author information, because I want my author information up there. And what I could do is I could go in and add authors on this article, but I actually want to update authors on everything in this project. So I'm going to go to the project author list and set it at that level. So I'm going to say Steve J. Curtis. It should find me. There I am. I'm going to add, like so. And Rowan actually helped me on this work. So I'm going to add Rowan. There he is. I'm going to add that. And I'm going to add us two as authors on the project. We both are at Curvenote, so it's already there. I'm going to add the affiliation. If that wasn't there, I would be just typing that in and hitting enter in order to get that affiliation. And I'm going to be corresponding author on this one, so I'll add that information there. And what we've also got is the credit system contributor roles. So I am going to credit myself with investigation, project administration. I wrote the notebook, software and the visualization, and going to credit Rowan with validation and writing, review, and everything. Great. So that's great. So I'm just going to submit those changes there. So now this is set at the project level. And if I say just use project authors, now that's populated through here. And that shows up now on on my article here, and it should also show up on everything else in my project too. Now, just noticing, Rowan's got his ORCID ID set, which I would also like my ORCID ID on here. So I could come through and at this stage type that in so that it applies. Imagine if I'm adding a co-author and I had their ORCID ID, I could go in and type that. But actually, I want to add my verified ORCID ID. So what I'm going to do is just nip out to my personal settings. And in my profile, I can actually now connect to ORCID. So I'm just going to do that, sign in with my Google account at ORCID. And that should now connect my ID. Oh. Yes, great. Okay. Now if I come back here, I'm connected. And if I come into my author list here, okay, that is quite showing up yet. Do I have to refresh the page? Yes, okay. I needed to refresh. Then now my ORCID ID shows up and is verified. So that's great. So I'm just going to save a version there. I can publish and update to my site. And we can check on that in a minute. Great. So that's sort of author information. And you've got, sorry about that. Okay. I think Zoom or my internet connection just failed there. But I think everybody's still there. Looks like you are. Right. Yes, good. Thank you. Great. So let me go back to where I was. And thank you for hanging around. I think it was unexpected. Great. So where was I? I think we were just adding some. Let me refresh the page. We were adding some front matter. So we might have to nip back and do that again. So like I said, front matter is the information that we can attach to our project, project wide again, or again, we can specialize it for any of the contents of our project. So it seems like I lost the settings from before. That's good. Let's just back that up. So licenses, first of all, we can attach separate content and code licenses. We've got a whole list of licenses identified by their official SPDK identifier in here, with the most common ones at the top of the list. So that allows you to identify both your content and code separately, which is a common trend because a lot of the time code licenses don't make sense when you apply them to content and vice versa. I'm going to hit that open access badge. I'm going to put my GitHub URL back in. Like I was saying, we could have a binder link here if I'd set one up. And we're also going to have a subject, and this will give us sort of a header right down. I'm going to call this geoscience. If I just update front matter here, you can see there that we have the various fields now added to the article here. We would have a DOI here if that was available. And I was expecting a subject to appear. But let me just check on that. Maybe edit subject. I use the project one. I had this switched off. Okay, good. Great. So now I've updated all that information. I should have already published my website while we were busy making those edits at my new root sort of domain. And let's go ahead and publish the domains again. And now we should see those, all that front matter and licensing information come through. Great. Okay, so while that's happening, let me just touch on the next point, which is sort of SEO. So when we go and we share our link, for example, here, I'll input that in somewhere like Twitter, somewhere like LinkedIn. It's often, that link will a lot of the time appear plain unless it's actually had a description and thumbnail attached to it. So Curvenote will, sorry, when we paste this link, will actually look for images and will generate a thumbnail for you, but we can come in here into the article settings and we can actually go ahead and set that. So we could set a better URL for our paper, say La Palma Eruption 2022 paper instead. We can set a description, analysis of the science paper during the eruption. And we can also set a thumbnail, which I've already gone ahead and done there. So all these things are better for search engines to find your site. And also now you see that the URL's changed here as well. And we're able to, again, go ahead and just publish that update. So it's very quick to publish. You can do it as many times as you like. If we head over to the site itself, we can see from our last set of changes, we've got this header in place that looks a little bit like a sort of journal style header section. And now we've got the links and the license information available here. And if I do another refresh, yeah, it's good. And pop over to something like Twitter. Somewhere that's going to try and read our SEO. Okay. Maybe that isn't a great example. Let's see if it works once it's published. Oh. Yes, it is. So Twitter leaves it once your tweet's out, and you've got the descriptions and thumbnails there. Great. So that gives you pretty full control over how to customize the whole website. Now, of course, you might not want to. Well, we provide free hosting for the websites that we publish out here. That hosting goes beyond just the CurveSpace domain, though. You can host for free up here, but you can also configure custom domains that allows you to sort of take control of what that says. And at the moment, you can't do that yourself via the website, but we can do it on request, just with a little bit of one-off configuration. We can point this to a custom domain for you, and then after that, you can continue to publish to that domain. And I've already done that for this project. So if I pop up here, this project I've got going to both a CurveSpace domain and a custom subdomain on my own website, stevejpurvis.com. And we're able to hit publish and publish to both those places and have actual control over the domain itself. So it's totally possible to use Curvenote as sort of a CMS and take one or multiple projects from there and have those appear as different sections to a completely different website or a larger website, say for a university or a lab group, etc. So it's possible to interweave those two things and customize where you're publishing to. I can show you another quick example of that, and that is on our actual Curvenote website itself. Oops. I go to curvenote.com and sort of look at our blog here. Our blog itself is all driven from a Curvenote project, as is, if you come to the footer here, as is our change log and our week notes. We publish a small article every week with what we've been up to. This is all linked to individual Curvenote projects. There's our change log there. And what I'm going to do, what I can do actually is show you, let me just pop in to Curvenote week notes. And I actually, in advance, created a new week note for this week, which I've been doing this webinar course. And what I can do is just, we have that custom domain mapped in here. I can just do publish. And then that's actually going to go and appear as, and I've updated one part of this larger website just by publishing this one Curvenote project. And that does require a bit more configuration in terms of the person looking after the website as a whole to be able to link in that content. But once it's set up once, it allows somebody to come on and continually publish and update materials without involving that whoever's looking after the main website. Great. Curvenote also provides for teams. So I'll just wait and I'll just do a quick refresh. I should appear any second. I will come back in a second and check that. Curvenote also supports teams. So as well as your personal area and project, you can set up teams within Curvenote. And what teams gives you is it gives you a sort of another layer of user administration in your project. And it gives you sort of a unique name or brand. So for example, this is the geocomputing team, which I'm intending to use for some geocomputing tutorials with the Software Underground group. And that website, this project is no longer linked to my username, but has the geocomputing sort of identity and username with it. And then you can go ahead and manage a team of people in there and give them access to different projects. And then those people can be creating and running different projects within the team, inviting others, etc. So that this is perfect, say, for a lab group or somewhere where there's shared content being published by a number of people. And I just sort of set this up here, but we can actually see if we come in to this example tutorial, we've got exactly the same controls, and I'm able to go ahead and continue publishing this to now geocomputing.curve.space or a custom domain that lab group set up for themselves. We can pop out and see the one that I produced earlier. So then it's no longer linked to an individual user's account, and multiple people can help publish the materials for the group. It's great. I'm just going to refresh this page, which should now have updated. And there's our article that we just published from that one Curvenote project, which is great. Cool. And we published to date some pretty complex and, well, sophisticated websites. Lots of people have published individual sort of projects, but we use it, like I say, for the Curvenote blog. This has also been used in the Transform, which is a Software Underground annual conference. And we're building out there lots of different projects, complete with sort of tutorial material, notebooks, links to videos. I think Augustina was here a little while ago. This is some of her work. And we're able to do is pull from many, many different projects to create the single sort of web experience for this conference website. One other example that we have is the Climasoma. This Climasoma report is like a multi-author report on sort of soil science in relation to climate change. And this report was built again in Curvenote. It contains many supplementary materials and notebooks. There's notebooks in here, so yeah, notebooks, all supporting that analysis. And that's also available and linked to the final project report, which was again built with Curvenote's command line tools in PDF. So you're able to, so in this case, people were able to publish on the web quickly, and are still sort of updating that regularly, but also building a PDF version for official submission back at the time to the EU funding body. So these are just a few of the great examples of things that have been built with Curvenote so far. Great. So in terms of publishing directly from Curvenote, that's, I think, we're taking you through all of those features. But of course, the idea is that when you're inside Curvenote and you've linked in your content, it's easy to keep on updating your content. Things stay linked to Jupyter. And really, we're trying to support the trend and the ongoing trend that we see, that science and research projects are sort of continuous, that work is continually being added to. And so Curvenote is set up to allow you to continually update all of the content within these projects and continue to publish it. As well as the web route, I can easily take this article out to a Word doc, or also to a PDF in either the sort of default Curvenote format, or a number of different templates we have here allowing you to get it out to different journals. So I'm able to do that from exactly the same content as we just published to the web. And if we wanted to have a slightly different manuscript, for example, that we didn't want to publish to the web but was aimed for our PDF, we could come in here and create one, link in a lot of the same content that we've used for the web, and then when we want to actually go in and publish our website, we would just come in here and hide that specific article. So, and I'm going to hide actually my meeting notes, which I don't want to publish, for example, and some of these work in progress notebooks. We can just hide those, and when we next hit publish, these will not appear on the website. So this project itself is completely private, so I'm able to work privately and selectively decide what content actually goes out onto that website. Great. If I come back to my article here, now my PDF has downloaded. Download. This will probably pop up on the other screen. No, it didn't. Okay, good. And now I have that article in the Curvenote standard format. And also I have the Word document down here, which I could download as well. But I'm on Mac and don't have Word, so I want to show that immediately. Great. So the other aspect of this is this data is this information is portable as well. So we have a previous webinar where we looked at our CLI tool, and that works alongside all of the information that you have in Curvenote. So imagine that you have a set of people working in Curvenote via the web interface. They're equally able to go and work alongside somebody who prefers to work on the command line. So if I have here a text editor, I have the Curvenote CLI already installed. What I'm able to do, and it's in this empty folder, I'm able to come in and just say, initialize a Curvenote project, please. Import that from Curvenote. I'm going to accept the defaults and say, yes, please start a local server for me. And what that's going to do is going to go and pull all that content down into that local folder. And we can see that sort of appearing here. What we've got is we've got Markdown files, which is directly sort of editable. And we've got the notebooks themselves in full form that are available now locally. And at the moment, we can do this pull, we can customize here, and we can also easily deploy here to the exact same domains as well. What we're working on at the minute is the round trip, so that people can push their changes from here back up and contribute back to the project. That's not quite there yet, but what is possible now through the command line is a lot of automation. So if somebody wanted to be able to use sort of Curvenote in an automated sort of build of a website, that's perfectly possible in terms of an automated script would just run, use the Kernel CLI to pull the latest content, and then deploy from there. Great. And now this website, for example, is available locally. It's popped up in the other tab. And now this is the local version of my website. I would be able to edit, tweak, and add to locally. Great. Okay, so I think that's everything I have to show you. In terms of what's coming next, we're currently working on themes. So the Curvenote sites that we are putting out at the moment on CurveSpace all have a common theme, even though they're customizable in terms of things like front matter and navigation, etc. We're working on a theme system to allow you to sort of select between a number of standard themes. The first one of those is currently in use, and you'll have noticed on the Curvenote blog, we have a very different theme and sort of cards for a card view for the posts. That's an example of one of the themes, and we hope we're going to get that out as options when you deploy soon. We're actively working with the Jupyter project in order to get interactivity into the website, and we're getting closer. This is an example of a standalone website that we did that connects to a Jupyter backend, and we're getting closer to being able to provide that in the Curvenote sites themselves. And Curvenote, so far, we've really been aiming at sort of open research publishing, but some people have asked us as well to be able to protect part or the whole website behind a password and require authentication. And that's because there's researchers and lab groups who are trying to share material in this way, but have to share it with a consortium or other groups where they can't make it completely public, but they still want to be able to share via the web. So we're also working on some password protection for the sites that you publish to. Oh, great. And that's everything. So in terms of what's next, please try out Curvenote, sign up for a free account. Everything that you've seen today is completely free to do and completely free to publish to the web. We've got documentation up on our main website. And for everybody attending this webinar, if you'd like to, if you're interested in a pro plan, which gets you those sort of additional journal templates and custom domains for your site, please let us know, and we will we'll activate you for free for 6 months. Just drop us a line, myself or Rowan or founders at Curvenote. And if you're involved in a community, a lab group, a journal, or somewhere where you want to be able to host some materials on the web using Curvenote, please get in touch. We can help you set that up and make that as easy as possible. Also join our Slack if you like to chat, and follow us on Twitter. Great, thank you very much. And if anybody's got any questions, happy to open up the discussion. Hey, Rowan.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, that was awesome.
Cool. In terms of, somebody asked about EndNote. I'm not sure if EndNote pushes out BibTeX or not. I imagine it can. But like I say, that is on the reference management front. Rowan did some work recently with PaperPile. It will, good. So if you can get the BibTeX, Alan, then you can bring that in. We are looking at more integrations as well. Rowan just enabled integration to PaperPile directly. So if you're using PaperPile currently in our CLI, but soon in the app as well, you can create a virtual BibTeX file on a URL, which is what sort of the PaperPile style of working is. And then we can pull your references directly. You just add them to the right folder and paper file, and they appear in Curvenote. So we are also looking at other reference managers, Zotero, Mendeley as well, and EndNote, I imagine, is online too. So if they have integration, we can consider that. Great. Were there any more questions anyone had? Right. The big advantages between this project and the Jupyter book. There's a lot of similarity between what we're doing in Jupyter book, and in fact, it's possible to run Curvenote in a Jupyter book folder, and it will produce a Curvenote site. So I think some of the big advantages are that we're making that deployment as easy as possible. Where with Jupyter book, you're exposed to Sphinx. And what we're doing is we're building a equivalent, a simplified version of that build system in JavaScript, which we think will sort of be better and easier to use than Sphinx, even though we're continuing to build that out. It actually uses completely the same style of Markdown as Jupyter book. So it uses Markdown with the Mist extensions that Jupyter book also used. And we're actually actively developing the Mist JavaScript, both the Mist standard and the Mist JavaScript side of things. So we have a sort of first-class implementation of Mist parser in Curvenote.
Yeah.
Ron, can you add anything?
Yeah, I think we're actively working with the folks in the Executable Books project, which is the sort of the governing team behind Jupyter Book. And the reason I was late to this webinar is because I was meeting with them, and we're aiming to unify the experience between sort of some of the Curvenote tools that you saw today and what Jupyter Book is doing. Some of the other pieces that you get out of using the Curvenote tools as they exist today is that export to scientific PDFs and preprints that isn't really possible in Jupyter Book currently. And so we're working with them to sort of firm up the Jupyter Book experience, and then the pieces that Steve mentioned for deploying this out to a website, password protection, other types of themes, really supporting communities of people working together. That's where Curvenote will play.
Yeah, so the collaboration aspect as well, and the sort of visual editor. So you can work in Curvenote. You have the collaboration system with comments, etc. I think in Jupyter Book, if you're working there, you're on a GitHub workflow for version control and interaction, and working with Sphinx yourself. And you don't have that quite the same. You don't have that commenting ability. But, yeah, as well as the export and translation capabilities that Rowan mentioned. Cool. You have any questions, Ron? No.
Hassan, you unmuted yourself.
Ah.
Oh, there, you've muted yourself.
Okay.
Any other questions from folks, or is anyone involved in communities publishing or seminar series?
And would like to would be interested in trying this out, or even beyond that. How do you sort of do you publish like this today, and how do you do it? Yes, I can see you unmuting, but I can't hear you. I don't know if you have mic issues. Feel free to type in the chat as well. Oh yeah, that's excellent. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a G Latinos. We'd love to support you guys.
Cool. Good. Well, maybe we'll leave it there in a few minutes. I think I will actually also just stop the recording.